welcome to another episode of Global Groove. I'm your host, Cha Jones, and I'm super excited today to talk to my friend who is in a place that is near and dear to my heart, Mérida, Mexico. I'm going to be talking to Monte Raynor, who is a phenomenal person who hails from Atlanta, Georgia. He is an entrepreneur, family man, and expat who turns his dream into reality with a careful plan to move abroad. After a thriving career in cybersecurity, that means he was doing some big things, and running a successful t-shirt franchise, Monte retired from corporate life and charted a new path in Mexico with his wife and his youngest daughter. Please welcome Monte to Global Groove. Hello there, how are you?
And what's going on? Good morning.
Good morning to you. Good evening to me. I'm going to end my day pretty soon and finish Thanksgiving setup.
Oh yeah, it's probably close to Thursday for you.
Yeah, I got 2 more hours, and I'll be into Thursday. But right now, I'm still here with you in Wednesday. How are you doing?
Good. I cannot complain. It is a beautiful sunny day in Mexico as always. So that's the mornings. You can always count on sunshine in the mornings here.
Yeah, it's hot. I tell people it's hell hot.
It's been so cool. It's been so cold lately that people are like, it's only 71 degrees right now. So people are like, oh my God, what am I doing with this cold weather? Are you wearing your sweaters? And they pulled out the bubble coats. So
I love Mexico, specifically Mérida, because that's where I lived for 3 years. So this is actually going to be like a great conversation because, as I look at all of the top places that African Americans or Black Americans are moving and thriving, Mexico is top on the list, right? So you have the top 10 and Mexico's up there. And so I really wanted to feature the places that I know that Black people are moving, especially after, the election.
I keep telling people we're in the find out period now. Yes.
But after what happened last month, or actually what even last month, was earlier
this month. Look, trauma is real, right? Trauma is real. You're trying to put it way back. We can't speed up that timeline fast enough.
Listen, somebody told me I had a meeting a couple weeks ago, and I was like, what? I don't recall that board meeting. I was not there. They were like, you were so there. But I also was jet lagged because I came back from a month of being in America. So I'm gonna charge that to the game. But let's get started because Mexico is a hotspot, but Mérida is also a hotspot. You have so many people who are moving to Mérida, and I remember during the pandemic when I first moved to Mérida, it was a thriving place then, but now you still have a huge influx, and I think because it's so centrally located, it's really safe. And that's what people don't know, that it's very safe. And then it's so close to the U.S. Why did you move to Mérida?
So we moved to Mexico. We were planning to move to Mexico for probably over 20 years. It was a dream anyway, right? And my wife studied abroad. She went to Georgia State in Atlanta, and she studied abroad, did a summer program in Guadalajara. So after that program, for many years afterwards, we would take our older kids, to Guadalajara for a month at a time to study Spanish. So we have 4 kids total, and the three oldest ones actually all went to Guadalajara for several months over the summers, for probably 5 to 6 years. So Mexico was always kind of on our roadmap when we were looking to move abroad or live abroad. And we selected Mérida. It was a combination of 2 things. One, we had been here, I guess it was like 19 years ago. We came on a cruise ship to Progreso. Uh,
Mm,
and we thought Progresso was Merida, right? We didn't realize that it was two different cities. So when we did the cruise ship, we did an excursion. It was called the city tour. So we did the city tour
mm,
excursion, which took us downtown to the Zocalo, and we did the monument, all the stuff that you see tourists doing when they come in now. We did pretty much that 20 years ago, but we really had no concept of what the city was like or if Merida would be, a suitable location. We just know we had a great time that day. Fast forward many years ago, probably 7 or 8 years now, or probably 8 or 9, close to 8 years now, my church decided to do a mission trip in Mexico, and they chose Merida, which was like,
mm,
okay. So we came down with the group, and we supported a church out in Dizentum, which is way out, couple hours, about an hour 15 minutes from here. And that was my first experience with the city. We stayed near Galleria's Mall, and we got to see like all the amenities and everything. And so that really shifted our focus to Merida from Guadalajara, because it had all the same services that Guadalajara
mm,
had, but it had the safety. And so the following mission trip, when we came back, we extended that and made that our first exploratory trip, to really get a feel for the city and the neighborhoods and all of those things. And what's interesting is we had no idea where we were, what we were doing. We were just kind of driving around and eating and, just enjoying the city. And we ended up moving. We went to Boston's that night. We saw the big houses behind Boston's and Montes de Ame, and we ended up moving pretty much in the same neighborhood. So,
oh, wow.
yeah, it's amazing how everything worked out on that very first mission trip. We were in the parking lot of City Center, and I remember thinking I could live in an area like this, and I live a mile and a half from City Center now. So
Wow. That's
so yeah.
interesting because I remember when I moved to Merida, like, so the pandemic has started.
Mhm.
We were like 4 or 5 months into the pandemic, and I was like, I can't do this. I need to go on vacation. Who goes on vacation in a
During
pandemic?
the pandemic,
But
yes.
so then I went to Mexico. I went to Cancun, and I remember being in Cancun like I could live here. I could do Mexico because I never really
Hmm.
thought about it because it's Mexico. And actually, as a child, my mother lived in Mexico when I was a baby.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
in Tijuana. So I, you know, never thought about Mexico because it was just like, okay, that place down there south of
Hmm.
Texas. It's like, okay, whatever. So while the pandemic was very slow, and then we went to Chichen Itza, and on the ride, I was just like, it felt so familiar. And then I literally came home and was like, okay, I'm gonna move back abroad because I had lived in Korea for 3 years. And then when I got home, I just literally put something out there. And at the time, Tasha was thinking about living there. She was like, "Hey, we gonna go there." And the funny thing is, when I was in Cancun, Tasha and I had known each other from Korea, but she happened
Hmm.
to be in Tulum at the time, and we were gonna try to meet up. We didn't meet up, and then she was like, "Hey, we're gonna move to Merida." So then I was like, "All right." So I came to Merida. I looked around. I was like, "I can live here," and literally went home, packed my bags. Like, came back in 2 months. And
Yeah,
so
that's it's not uncommon. I mean, people move from all parts of the spectrum in terms of planning, right? Some people plan for years, some people don't plan at all, some people come sight unseen. So I've seen every aspect of that in my journey.
and let's get to that because you have started MexitPlan and you're doing quite well with over, I think it was 11,000 subscribers that you
Yeah,
got
we're
on
just
this.
at 11, a little over 11,000 right
Okay,
now.
11,000. See you doing big
Yeah.
things. I remember when you first started. So
Yeah, for
congratulations
sure.
for
Thank you.
staying consistent and helping the good people who wanted to move to Merida actually create a plan. Tell us like how that started.
So really, from the very first meeting we had at the consulate, I started blogging about the journey, right? I wanted to document the experience and just really kind of my thought all along was to show other Black families that this is possible. You don't have to wait till retirement to live outside of the country or to really experience life, right? You can do this right now, today, if you want to, as long as you have a plan in place. So I created the website MexitPlans.com before we left the country, and really the very first entry was, realizing the dream. Like, here, we're getting started. So we talked about going to the consulate in Atlanta, and what I found was that information was super helpful because people had no idea where to begin, what to do, what the experience would be like, any of those things. So I had no intentions of starting a YouTube channel until I got here and realized, well, there's a lot that I'm learning. Every single day I'm learning something new about what it's like to live in Mexico that would really shorten the learning curve for other people that are coming behind me. So, that's kind of how the YouTube channel started. It was like, I had to learn what the plumbing was like here. I had to learn, how to go to immigration or how to get my cars registered and how to do all of the things that you have to do to live in a new culture. And so that's where, MexitPlan started. And one of the things I'm most proudest about the channel is I have 11,000 subscribers, which isn't super big, but I have over 1 million views, right? So 1 million
Mhm.
people have watched these videos, which is crazy to me to think that, there are people that I meet on the street that tell me how much it's been helpful, but just knowing that people are consuming the content and they really enjoy it and it's helping people make an impact, which is what I wanted to do when I started the blog. So
Absolutely. I love it. Because there's so many people who are out here who are trying to figure out how to become expats, and Mexico is a very soft landing.
absolutely. Mérida in particular, right?
Yes, specifically Merida, because it's so safe, for whatever those reasons are. But the fact that you can get there, and it's very family oriented. So if you are coming with a family, even if you're a single parent like myself, it was very easy to transition into Merida and get things started, even when you didn't speak the language.
Hmm.
And so you and your family already had the language down pat. So that made it a lot easier.
Three-fourths of us had the language down packed. I thought I spoke Spanish when I got here, right? So that was that, and that's a whole nother like journey in and of itself. In that, of course, I took Spanish in college and well, high school. I took so much in high school, I didn't have to take it in college. And I thought I spoke Spanish, but that was 20, 30 years removed, right? Since actually trying to use it. So when I got here, the one of the very first things I did was enroll in intensive immersion classes. So 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. Let's get it right. Let's let's realize, let's learn the language. And what I realized in those classes is I really had a very small understanding of the language. And and
Mhm.
and so I had to build, right? I had to build that. And it's a huge difference between speaking and not speaking the language. The experience is entirely different. Like now, I do everything I need to do in Spanish. It may not be smooth, but it's functional, and
Mhm.
that's the key. But that's it took me 2.5 years to get to that point where I felt comfortable having a conversation with anybody or on the phone, talking to customer service on the phone. As you know, I hate doing that in English. So doing it in Spanish is a whole different animal. But being able to do things like that really makes a difference in your experience when this is my home. I'm not passing through. I live here. So, I love the A. I moved from Atlanta, which I love. I'm A town through and through. And so to move to a new place, I had to be able to feel the same level of comfort. And speaking the language is
Mhm.
a big part of that.
Yeah, I tried those classes and my head used to hurt. So, and I spoke Spanish as a child.
Hmm.
So, and then took it in junior high and high school. And listen, my head was hurting every day when I was trying to take those classes. I was like, I can't right
Oh,
now.
it's serious. It's definite work. Like you leave at 1 o'clock and you're like, I don't want to talk to anybody else. Like I just don't. Right. So, and that was the first 3 weeks I was there. I remember the first week I was like, this is crazy. And then the second week it got a little better. And by the third week, I was like, okay, I can manage this. And so I probably took 16 to 18 weeks of classes there, throughout the years. But every time I went back, it was way easier because I knew the routine, I knew the process, I knew when the lunch break was, which was the most important part, uh, and how to get in line first, right? So I knew I
Important.
was like a pro at the school at that point. So
Important. So let me ask you this. What do you love about your lifestyle and the culture of Merida? Any aspect of your daily lifestyle that you want to share that
for
just
sure.
really made you like solidify, okay, to the point that this is home?
Yeah. So we moved here with the intention that this was home. We weren't, that we didn't plan to pass through or be here for a little bit or any of those things. Like we moved
Okay.
here. So like literally moved a truck here. So we had stuff here, like our Pac-Man machine and all of our stuff came with us, right? The desk that I'm sitting at now. But the things about Merida that I love, we talked about this at the beginning of the show, is it's sunny every single morning. Like there's very few, maybe 1 or 2 days where if there's a hurricane somewhere nearby where there's not sunshine out, in the morning. And so that makes a huge difference in terms of what you're able to do from a physical activity perspective. So my health is I probably added, 10 to 15 years on my life just by living
Mm.
here with my, physical fitness. So I'm able to run, swim, bike, whatever I want to do every single day. And that's, that is a gift that even in Atlanta, just in our normal everyday lives, we drive everywhere, right? There's we had so many cars at one point. It was like we're driving everywhere, and you never would walk to the store, walk to Walmart, or any of those things. Well, now here in Merida, we walk all over the place. We drive, or we can ride our bikes. So I exercise every day. In fact, after this, I'll probably go exercise. I'll probably swim after after this call. But that is one of the biggest benefits. The other thing is, and you mentioned this earlier about the support for families. This is a very family oriented community, or culture, right? Just I think Latin American culture in general is family oriented, but in Merida, it's on 10. Like you have services available for families. You go out to eat, there's restaurant nannies, in the restaurants.
I miss it. I miss
Yeah,
it.
so you can actually enjoy a meal and your kids are entertained and safe, and you don't have to worry about that. Things like that. The small little things that they really go above and beyond for families. There's every weekend at the malls, there's families from the grandmothers all the way down through the dog in the mall walking around, having a good time, eating ice cream, just enjoying whatever, shopping. And so that's something you don't really experience in the States anymore. I feel like Merida is, 1960s or 70s in terms of the close knit of family activities, things of that nature. Your kids being able to go out and play at the park and things of that nature. I feel like that's the environment that we have here in Merida.
I absolutely miss, and that's one of the things that like the nostalgia moments. I'm like, oh, we had community and the nanny. Like I have a part-time nanny here, but it's not the same. Like it's just not the same. Like my nanny there, my housekeeper, this became family, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so
Those people become your family. Exactly.
yeah, and then when, like you were saying, you go to a restaurant, and even if I didn't have my nanny, there were little play areas for the children, and at that time my son was very small, so to be able to leave him in a room that I can see him in, and then there's a person that's on staff that's actually working there to make sure that they're okay and that they're playing. I miss those. That's one thing that you could always count on. Even if they didn't have a staff member there, they had a play area where
Yeah,
the
for
children
sure.
can go. Like IHOP was, breakfast time. Like I could walk to Alta Brista and you know have
Yeah, and
playtime,
have
or
breakfast.
I could work.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, exactly. And so I don't you may remember, oh, Oh, my computer. Hang on a second. My
Uh-huh.
computer just went to sleep and lost my camera. But
Oh,
you
no
you may
problem.
remember cul-de-sac, um,
Hmm.
that you could play and work. Let's see if I can get my camera back. Oh, there we go. All right. Yeah, cul-de-sac where you can actually play and work. The kids could play and you could work in the middle, which was nice. That was a really cool place. But yeah, just the services, the culture of being with your family. It's expected on a Saturday if there's a kid's birthday party that the family shows up, right? Things of
Yeah,
that nature. Like it's not, unusual to have your entire family at a kid's birthday party if it's on the
absolutely.
weekends. Even just speaking of birthdays, the way they do birthday parties here, even for kids and babies, it's insane. It's
Whole
it's completely
experience.
different, right? Yeah,
An
it's a
experience.
whole experience. There's going to be drinks for the adults. There's going to be some type of activity for the kids, whether it's a show or arts and crafts or whatever, right? And then there's going to be all the other stuff, the food and everything else. So it's
It's like
just
a 6 hour experience.
oh, it's a it's
Like,
a
hey,
it's a day.
no
Yeah, it's
games.
not you're rolling into the birthday party and you're rolling out. You're going to be there for a minute.
Yeah,
And
it's like,
we've
oh,
seen
we're dropping off
everything
a
from
gift. No, you're not.
no, no, you're not. What
No,
do you
you're
mean
not.
you're not staying and eating and dancing and having a good time? So,
You're swimming, taking showers, all
hmm
kinds of stuff.
all the things.
But beyond that, there's a thriving African American community there.
Hmm.
You have the Brothers and Sisters of Merida. I think Blacks in Merida. You have all these different groups, which really stemmed off of Brothers and Sisters. Talk about the community and what how that allows you to continue to thrive, just because you have that community there.
Yeah, so when we moved here, we didn't have that community, right? It was like me, you, and five other people, to be honest.
Right.
Tasha, it was like, it was Abraham. It wasn't very big. I mean, there were folks here, but most of them were older retirees when we first moved here. It's funny, some of the people that were here when I got here, the first couple people I met were um, Terry, Kobe, Ty. Those were probably the first three people under the retirement age that I met. And then Jan, we met Jan the first day or the second day we were here. Um, and Jan's still here, but she's an older retiree, right? So
Hmm.
she's been here for years and years before any of us ever thought about moving to Merida. And so what's changed in that time frame since we got here to now is there are more families that are here than there are retirees. I met a young lady yesterday, 82 years old. She moved
Hmm.
down in March and she's just been here. I was like, Miss Mary, where'd you come from? How'd you get here? Are you not intimidated by not speaking the language? She was like, no, I figure it out. She's just doing her thing. So I was
I
really
love it.
impressed with Miss Mary yesterday. And but we have the demographics are really from I guess 82 down to mid 20s. Families, people, so many babies were born here last year. Probably 6 or 7 people had kids here in Mexico last year. So it's really impressive. There's about, if I had to guess, I always try to gauge this every January, but there's about 400 families, if I had to take a wild guess, in Merida right now, African American families, Black families. And so we see that on Thursdays. There's a meetup run by the Black Merida Experience. They meet up at Parque La Plancha, and there's any given Thursday, you'll get 30 kids out there, right? So it's a big thing. And then we just had, my wife does with Club Wonder Garden, she does special events for like Halloween and Easter and things of that nature. We had 100 kids at the Halloween event in October. So, and
Wow.
this was the fourth time that we've had that many people, at an event. So, for Halloween in particular. So, yeah, it's definitely a big community for us, and it's really nice to have that community because a lot of the kids may come and not speak Spanish, so then they have the outlet of having other English speakers. There's also the situation of trying to find some place to get your hair done, or what barber do you go to? All the things that we need whenever we move abroad and just try to figure out. that's already kind of been navigated and road mapped out for you. So.
Right. So let's go back to MexitPlan, where you've spent years now.
Mhm.
Years. I can't believe like time flies so
Yeah, it's
fast.
been over. We've been here for 5 years.
I know, like you've spent years documenting your journey, helping others navigate this process. So tell me, like, what is some of the biggest challenges that some people find when they're trying to move to Mexico? And then what are some of the greatest opportunities that can be had in Merida?
Yeah, so just starting from square one, I think the number one thing you have to kind of figure out is your source of income and your finances, right? Whether you're going to be living here as a retiree or whether you're going to still work. I don't think people realize that if you have a remote job, you have freedom. You just have to put technology in place in order to leverage that, right? And so that's a big part of what I actually help people out with at MexitPlans is figuring out how to use technology, how to use a travel router, how to set up a personal VPN, things of that nature. But the first aspect is really figuring out your income situation. Don't expect to come to Mexico and work in Mexico, right? For a Mexican company. Like
Right.
it's just one, you probably wouldn't want to because whatever the pay you were making in the States is going to be significantly less in Mexico. And then two, it's just hard. You can't take a job from a Mexican national that they can do and you can do, right? So it's just going to be a little different work environment for you. So, you definitely need to figure out how to earn dollars and hopefully spend them in some other type of currency, whether that's pesos or bot or whatever the situation is. You want to be able to earn US dollars and spend it elsewhere. So that's number one is your finances. Number two is just putting together the plan, being realistic about what it takes to move. It's hard to move down the street, you know, uh, from apartment to apartment or building to building or house to house, right? So that's difficult. So imagine doing that internationally. So is that, does that look like you're selling everything? And I think a lot of people don't truly understand their lifestyle or haven't actually taken an assessment of what their lifestyle is like. So, and what I
Mm.
mean by that, what are the things that you can and cannot live without, right? It's just that simple. So if you have to have grits every day, you're probably not going to find grits in Merida easily. You can, but those are the types of things, right? So if there's a certain type of food or a certain thing that you like to do every single day as a part of your habit or lifestyle, then you need to really assess what that looks like. What are your deal breakers? Is heat too much for you? Is it too cold? Is it bugs, right? Are you deathly afraid of bugs or wildlife and animals? When you talk about moving to the tropics, that's a different set of problems. That I've never seen as many ants as I have in
Oh my
Mexico.
God.
There's five different species, 5,000 different species of ants probably here.
Oh,
So
you gotta get
uh,
sprayed every 3 months. Oh,
you
like,
got to
oh
keep,
my
yes,
God.
yes, you have to keep your house and your body sprayed, right? Just to make sure you don't end up with mosquito-borne illnesses and things of that nature. So there's a different set of challenges that you have when you live in a different environment. But if you have the attitude of welcoming change, then what that leads to is growth, right? So anytime you change or put yourself in an environment where you have to adapt, you grow. And that gives you the ability to be able to uh, do other things that you may not have expected that you could do.
Absolutely. I like that you brought that point up because I think a lot of times you either get the people who think it's just easy, right? And you
Mhm.
just, oh, I'm just gonna wing it. Not a good idea.
Not a good
Um,
idea.
or you get the people who are just like they gotta have everything to the T and they don't anticipate the unexpected things. And the unexpected things are just going to happen regardless. And I don't care if you plan everything out, there are going to be some things like things are going to get lost in translation.
Oh, for sure.
You just gonna have some moments where you like, okay, this is not gonna work out, but it can still work out. You just have to have a really positive attitude about it. And one of the things I tell people all the time when they're moving abroad is to go with the flow.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
when you are too busy trying to plan everything and look out for all the mishaps, which you're not going to be able to do, then you don't even have the opportunity to take in the experience and just allow, like, okay, I'm moving to this foreign country. What is it that is teaching me? What do I need to learn? And what is this? This is a wonderful experience, and I'm totally missing it because I'm too focused on this, that, or the
To
other.
focus on making sure it goes right. Yeah,
Right.
I think there are extremes to anything, right? And I've seen so many people that didn't have any plan at all just say, "Oh, there's other black people there. I'll figure it out when I get there." And so they show up and they're like, "Okay, so where all the black people live?" Well, we don't all live in one area, right? You've seen
Right.
those messages, right? Like we don't all live
Absolutely.
in one apartment building. Like it's, there's a million people in this city and we're spread out throughout the city. So that's, you know, that's just one misconception. The other thing is we're not all the same. If I may not have hung out with you in Atlanta, and because you're in Mexico and I'm in Mexico doesn't mean we're going to hang out together, right? Because we're not all the
Hmm.
same. We don't have the same interests. We don't have the same beliefs. We don't have the same things. So the expectation that because I show up, there's now going to be, I'm all of a sudden going to be attracted to all these other African American people that are here. That's kind of unrealistic. Most of us moved to Mexico to be around to be in
Mexican.
Mexico, yeah, to be around Mexicans, to learn the language, to experience the culture, to really get involved with the culture and that thing. It's wonderful that we have a community of Black people here. I mean, I think that is a great thing, but it's a bonus. It shouldn't be the thing that drives you to move here. It's a safety net. It's nice to have because there's other people with a shared experience that you had in the States that live here, so it can help you adjust or adapt quicker, but it shouldn't be the main reason. And in terms of planning, you definitely have to have a roadmap. You don't start any game, no game, football, basketball, baseball starts without a game plan, right? You have some idea of the first 10 plays you want to run or whatever it is you want to do. And so you should have that plan in place. And that's the whole thing about MexitPlans. I created a course that would take you from 18 months before you move through the first 6 months of living here. Everything that you should really be thinking about, doing that. And I'm rebooting that course in the next year in February, and making it a live program so that I can walk
Mhm.
people step by step with all the things that have changed over the last 5 years. Here's the things that this is the process now. This is what I've seen. They made it a little easier. They made it a little tougher, whatever. Right. One of the things that's been more of a challenge for a lot of people is qualifying financially, which is why I started at the beginning. You have to start with your finances because it's way more expensive now to move to Mexico than it was 5 years ago.
Mhm.
Just because the minimum federal wages increased basically 20% over the last 20% each year over the last 5 years. So where it was like $6 and something when we first moved here, it's over $13 now, which impacts your ability to qualify financially. Now there are other programs in place that allow you to get residency without qualifying financially, but that's a whole nother process.
Absolutely. I think that's extremely important. And if you are interested in learning more about how to move to Mexico or just let's go back and look at some of those. You said you have over 1 million views. So
Mhm. There's
go watch
380 videos. Yeah, over
go watch some of the
380
videos
videos.
as well. And
Yeah.
if the link is right here on the screen, it's next to plan. So go don't miss out. Go look at some of those videos and get some information that's free, and then also work with him. He's already done this, and this is the thing I don't understand about so many people. I've lived in 3 different countries across the world, and it's the same thing. Like, having someone on the ground who has done it before you is so much easier than trying to do it for yourself, especially if you don't even know where to begin.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I saw in Mexico. It was so many people who was just new to this, that they don't know anything about moving abroad, and then they just got on a plane and said Mexico.
Yeah, and it's amazing. I find that there are several different types of folks on the spectrum, right? There are people that will do research to the best of their ability, right? And what I mean by that is you may not know the questions to ask. So you research what's available out there. You join the groups, you do the things, you get all the opinions. But the thing about free information is just that it's everybody's opinion, right? So it may not be correct, or it may have been correct at the time it was written, but things may have changed. And so you know what the information you get, the quality of the information may not be good. Then there are the folks that really like to plan and really like to have their ducks in a row, because guess what, they value their time. I fall into that category. So time is, my daughter asked me the other day, she says, what's the most expensive thing? And I thought about it and I said, it's time. And she says, time? I said, yes, because you don't get any more. You got 24 hours in a day and that's it. So if you want to spend all your time, looking at forums and asking people and all those things, that's time that you could have been using doing something else that was more valuable, right? You could have been making money, or you could have been spending time with your loved ones before you left the country or whatever. And so, the people like myself that value time, those are typically the folks that I generally work with, because they really want to make sure they have, they've considered all of the options, if nothing else.
Absolutely. So here's the information for you to go to his YouTube. I'm also going to drop in the description. It should already be there, but if you go to the description on YouTube, you'll also find his link tree. So it gives you all the ways that you can work with him. So I advise you, if you're looking into moving to Mexico, to look Monty up. So
Thank you.
with that being said, I want to have a shameless plug right now. This is my commercial break. I am living in Malaysia, as you all know, and I'm pretty much doing the same thing, doing relocation. I've been doing it for about 15 years, and I am introducing a lot of people to Malaysia. I've started a brothers and sisters group here, and we are quickly growing now that a lot of people are trying to move abroad. But in January 27th through February 3rd, I'm doing a relocation tour to Kuala Lumpur. If you are interested in getting all the information before you move, you want to meet realtors, you want to speak with someone in immigrations, you want to see schools or talk to somebody in the international school system, you want to actually go through a neighborhood tour, then this would be your great opportunity. So if you're interested, the details are also in the description for the relocation Kuala Lumpur tour. So that's my plug for today.
Excellent. Yeah.
Back to our show.
I mean, having lived abroad, in multiple countries, you've done this before, so you kind of have the basics figured out, right? You know exactly what it takes to move to a different place and what it feels like to be a foreigner in a new environment. And so that's probably the biggest thing, is you just have to get used to it, and as you said, go with the flow, right?
Definitely.
One of the things that occurred to me when I first moved here is like, these people have been doing whatever it is they've been doing without me for as long as I've been on this planet, right? And it's worked for them, whether it's driving or how they do the postal service or electricity or whatever. It's been working for them this whole time, so I can't come and change any of that. I have to adapt to the system that's here.
Definitely. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit, just because a couple weeks ago we had an election that I totally forgot about. I thought that was a month ago. But that sparked a lot of people who, I think, what I find is that, we as Black people mostly tend to move off of emotion. So, they didn't get the results that they wanted. So everyone was looking for anyone that could, point them in the right direction as far as getting out of Dodge. So talk about what the election has done for your business and or people inquiring about Mexico?
Yeah. So just from the analytics of my website, my traffic shot up 1,300%.
Oh, wow.
Since the election, right? And that's folks going through every single article that I've had on the website and just really trying to digest all of this information. I'm really happy to be in this position right now where I have 380 videos out there that people can go and experience the entire journey from the last 5 years. And even if you don't watch anything else, go and watch the yearly recaps. So my wife and I did a year 2 in Mexico, what it's like. What did we learn? Year 3, year 4, and I recently did a 5 year at the beginning of the year. Just to talk about the things that I've learned in the last 5 years. That video, the 5 year video, has seen like another 10,000 views this month, just from just from the after the election. I can see the spike, the correlation with the election and the spike and just views of that video that was produced earlier this year. But definitely people are across all the different groups that I'm a part of, Blacksit and some of the others. People are definitely like, okay, what do we do, how do we do it, where do we begin, right? Trying to figure out the process. And I will say that you know it's important that you don't, this may have been the catalyst that pushed you over the edge, like to make you move to do the thing you were already thinking about. But definitely get your ducks in a row, right? Prepare yourself and and make sure you have everything planned out, or at least some idea of what it looks like at each step along the way.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you because I think a lot of times people are making decisions out of emotion and not necessarily like, okay, why am I doing this and why now, right?
Hmm.
If you were totally already preparing to move abroad, great. And it just doesn't change anything for you.
It's
It just makes
confirmation,
you
right?
move, faster, right?
Yeah.
But if this is like, oh, this happened, now I'm gonna do this. That's reaction, and you're reacting to something that you haven't really thought this through. Like it takes a lot of planning and preparing to move abroad if you've never done it before. It's a little easier once you've done it, and especially if you've done it, in multiple countries, it's a lot easier. However, when it's your first rodeo, a lot a lot of people have not even left the country yet. And now
Yeah,
they're
for
like,
sure.
I'm going to XYZ. I advise you, if you are planning to leave the country for the very first time, and I'm not trying to send everybody to Mexico, but it's easier if that's your first spot because number one, if it doesn't work out the way you think it should work out, or it doesn't go according to plan, you can pivot quickly, right? You can go back
Yeah.
home. You can go home frequently. If you get homesick, you can go to other parts of Mexico and it still won't be like outrageous for you. So I think oftentimes, like, when you have to get on a plane for 7 hours, 24 hours, that's a whole different ball game.
That's a whole
So
different ball
starting,
game.
because listen, I live in Malaysia, and to be 24 hours in advance, or 12 hours sometimes, I guess what, 13 now, 13 hours. I think, yeah, East Coast is 13 hours difference. Um,
That's wild.
you have, there's so many adjustments that you've had to make. But Korea was my first country. Like I lived in Korea first back
Hmm.
15 years ago. And I just made the adjustment. But
Yeah.
I also was sponsored. I was a traditional expat. I was not a self-initiated expat. They were paying for my flight. They were paying for me to live. They were paying, I only paid 3 bills and they probably
Yeah.
didn't come up to $25. So my money was my money. And, my lifestyle was the lifestyle that I created based off of, what they gave me. And so that's totally different when you're a self-initiated expat out here in these expat streets. It's totally different. And so before we wrap up, Monty, just talk about how people can work with you and some of the benefits of becoming an expat, particularly in Mexico.
Yeah, so one just to piggytail on the last thought. You mentioned, 24-hour flights and getting homesick and things of that nature. That's a reality, right? So I'll give you two stories. One, my worst day here was the first Thanksgiving that we spent, right? It was the first time I had been away from my family in 45 years. So
Mm,
that was tough. That was a hard day for me as an expat, right? As a new expat, being out of the country, even though I had my wife and my daughter here, just not being with my other kids or my mom and all that thing, that was kind of tough for me. And seeing them all celebrate, it was tough. Fast forward to 5 years, they're going to have Thanksgiving up there. We're going to do Thanksgiving down here. It's all good, right? It's not a it's not a thing, but that just it reminded me of that when you said getting homesick. And then the second thing is, if you've been to Mexico, to Cancun, to Tulum, to Playa del Carmen, to Cabo, you have not been to Mexico. You've been to a representation of Mexico, which is resort life designed to cater to you. Merida is real Mexico. And I tell people when they fly in to visit us, I always tell them, welcome to real Mexico, because the expectation is no one speaks English, even though people do. No one speaks English. It's really, you're going to have to learn Spanish at some point. And my dad used to show up with a pocket full of dollars. He was old school, right? He bringing $10,000 in $100 bills. I'm like, man, what are you doing traveling with that kind of money? But you can't spend those dollars here. Ain't nobody trying to take your $100 bill. They want pesos. So,
mm.
it's those types of things that you can do in Cancun and resort areas that you cannot do in real Mexico. And one of the ways people can work with me, there's several ways. One is I have 380 plus videos that are free resources on my YouTube channel. Watch them. It's completely free. I've covered every aspect that I can think of about living here and what it takes and the do's and the don'ts and all of those things. And even some of those videos have been remade. So, the rental, what it was like to rent 5 years ago versus renting now and things of that nature. I've covered just about every aspect of that multiple times in some cases. So definitely watch those videos. The second way is through my website. I offer a bunch of different services. I have a blog that's full of free resources. I also have, sometimes the written content is different than the videos that are out there. But two of the main ways that I help people relocate is, one, thinking through the entire process, which is the new program is going to be called Roadmap to Expat. So, and it's going to apply whether you're moving to Mexico or you're moving to Spain. It's really the same ideas. You need to have your finances. You need to think about housing. You need to think about insurances. You need to think about all the things you have to think about, right, to sustain your lifestyle. So the Roadmap to Expat program is going to be a live coach program. We're going to have coaching sessions on the weekends, and then we'll follow up individually during the week with everybody to see how they're doing with building out their plan. So that launches in February. The thing that I do on a day-to-day basis, I have clients all over the world, and in Malaysia, actually, some of my clients are there right now. Um, but I help people figure out how to work remotely. So my background is cybersecurity. That's what I did. I'm a technology guy, and I help people leverage technology to work their remote jobs throughout the world using personal VPNs. And so there's some people say, all you need is a VPN. I can get Nord or Surfshark or whatever. Don't risk it, right? With something as important as your livelihood, you need to have a system, and you need to understand how that system works. More importantly, you need to understand how that system works. So that's what I do on a day-to-day basis, is I really help people figure out how to leverage technology to continue earning money while living wherever they want to call home. I help them figure out how to leverage technology to do that.
Wonderful. So, if you are thinking about moving to Mexico, particularly Merida, Monty is your guy. Please reach out to him. The link tree is in the description. All you have to do is click on it. It will take you directly to all the things that are on his tree, all the offerings. But you can also go to the YouTube, which is displayed on screen right now, which is MexitPlans. Um, What else would you like for people to know as far as why why Merida? You know, and why
You know,
Merida now? Because Merida now, like he was saying earlier, is totally different. 5 years ago, you could, you know, you could throw a rock and not even see a black person, but now it's totally different. You have all these different groups. You have people who have moved there with families, and you have a community. And by the way, now that I live in Malaysia, now that I live in Malaysia, and I'm building community, you don't understand how significant, regardless of what walk of life you coming from or your lifestyle and how it could be different from mine. When you and not that you moved abroad to be in
it's
a
important.
black community, right?
Hmm.
It's important at certain times, right? It's important. It's great that you connect with and you have your intercultural experiences in the community at large. That meaning whatever culture that you're in, that's extremely important. You definitely want to be immersed in the experience, especially if you're living and planting roots somewhere, right? And what I can say about Mexico is particularly Merida, because that's where I live, even though I travel to other parts of Mexico, um, the community there is important. There's so many things that I look back at that I didn't really necessarily, uh, not that disregard it, but didn't necessarily take an account of appreciation for.
Hmm.
And having that, and now navigating hundreds and hundreds of thousands of miles away and many different seas apart, um, excuse me, it's extremely important to have that connectivity and the things that that provides.
Yeah, I
And
don't think people realize, we said earlier, like, I moved here to be in Mexico, but building that community and having other folks that have a shared experience with you is important. And that's Merida. If we don't have, I want to say we have the largest Black expat community in Mexico. Now, I don't know that scientifically or by the numbers or anything like that, but if nothing else, we have the strongest Black expat community in Mexico. So it may not be the largest, but it's definitely the strongest. And large is relative, right? There are 1.1 million people in Merida. There's about 400 families here. So in the Black expat community. So that's a really small number. But one of the things you'll notice anywhere you travel, whether it's even in the U.S., whenever a certain culture goes to another country, they have community, right? Whether it's Latinos in America or Asians in America, they have community, and so it's definitely important. If it wasn't, there wouldn't be this phenomenon all over the world, no matter where you go, right? It's definitely important to have community. I will say that moving to Merida today, the city is on the cusp of blowing up, in terms of people are aware of it now. Before, when we moved here, they're like, now where's that Merida, where exactly is that, right? So no one even knew where this place was, but now it's on the map and it's on the radar. People are looking for it. And one of the things that I will say about it is, we've recently, in the last year, there's a new Central Park that was built in La Plancha, so that's now complete. And
Mhm.
it's amazing. It's a federal project. It's amazing. There's now a transit system here that's modern that you can use with an app. So that's another thing that's changed quite a bit. They have this tram that runs, it's all electric tram that runs throughout the city, which is pretty nice. And then there's the train, there's the Maya train. It's still in progress, but you can take a train from Cancun to Merida 4 times a day, which is impressive, right? So that is another thing that has happened over the last 5 years that wasn't here. All of these things were promised, when we first moved here, or talked about, rather, I should say, when we first moved here. And those projects are major projects that have been completed. So, just from a city, the city is growing up. This first skyscraper I can see out my window is actually almost complete. It's called the Sky. And so the first skyscraper in Merida is going up, and I'm sure it'll be the first of many. So this city is still relatively small. You can pretty much get anywhere within 30 minutes, preventing traffic, or without traffic. But it's gonna blow up pretty soon to be a 3 or 4 million person city in the next 5 to 10 years. So
Well, I the one thing I miss is the heat, but I definitely I definitely miss the community and having just Friendsgiving. I'm having Friendsgiving tomorrow, but I remember having my first Friendsgiving, and it was just amazing. It was like 30
yeah.
something people in my house, and just having a great time. And you
Yeah,
know,
playing spades and dominoes and those types of things,
yeah,
right?
like
If
like
you don't have
home.
community, exactly, and that's what's important. We're having Kwanzaa again this year, so that this will be the second Kwanzaa event that we've had, and I think that's cool, right? Like being able to expose your kids to that, and that's the thing. Like I'll give you one example, and then I'll be quiet. A few weeks ago at the park, they did birthday celebrations for November, right? And so they sung "Happy Birthday" in English, they sung it in Spanish, and then of course Stevie Wonder came out, right? So that's
Ah,
cultural, right? Is exactly, we got to remix it. So, but it's kind of cool that all of those things happen. Like, okay, yes, we're here, so we sing regular "Happy Birthday," we sing it in Spanish, and then of course they broke out the Stevie Wonder version. So that was kind of cool.
yeah, yeah. So on the days that I'm like, did you make the right decision? I have those. I go back and forth, and I think the last time I think I was there in March, to just finalize some things, and I still have some things lingering, and I'm a resident, and so which is important to me, and I will continue to be a resident, and I get permanent residency in May, so I will make sure that happens. But I
In Mexico,
in Mexico, of
perfect.
course, I I have to have a home away from home just in
Home, there
case
you
it
go.
gets crazy. So that's important to me. But yeah, I do miss Mexico, and I will say for anyone who is looking at this, I wanted to feature Mexico again. I'm looking at the top places that Black people are thriving at, or thriving in, and Mexico again is always at the top. I think it's because it's so close, but also because of the safety, the community aspect, the family aspect of it, the um, just the friendliness. Like Merida, like there are places in Mexico that, let's just keep it real, aren't that safe. The people aren't that friendly. Like Playa, I don't ever have to go to Playa, and
No, I'm with you. Once you've experienced real Mexico, going to the Riviera Maya, other than for the beauty of being in the Riviera Maya, is challenging, right? Because it's so expensive. It's so expensive. Did you lose power over
I,
there?
no, I had a
Oh,
child wake up and
oh,
decide
oh,
my,
it was too
my
bright.
lights affected him.
So yeah, I definitely agree. Once you've experienced real Mexico, it's tough to go back um, to the Riviera Maya and spend the insane amounts of money that they ask for things. So it is, it's very, very different. And Merida is definitely a soft landing for a lot of people. So it's a good place to get. If an 82-year-old lady that I met the other day can do it, you can do it, right? With the proper planning. And she was very well planned. I can tell you that she had planned her system and used support to make this happen. So I can definitely tell you that it's worth it and it's possible.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you for joining me today, and
Thanks for having me.
it's been a pleasure. Again, if you want to reach out to Monty, the link for his YouTube is here, but also in the description, you'll find his link to his link tree, which will give you a list of all the offerings that he has. Again, I want to thank you for taking this moment to share with
My pleasure.
everyone what you're doing, how you're doing it, how you can help them. And if you're looking at an opportunity to move abroad, please consider Mexico. And if you haven't seen Global Group, go back and check out. We've done Colombia, we've done Lisbon, Portugal, and we have next week we'll be looking at Thailand. So thank you for this opportunity, and you have a wonderful morning, and I'll have a
Yes.
wonderful night. Until
All
next
right.
time.
I see the little man back there in the background. Tell him I
Yes.
say hello. He's growing up big. And this is the last point I'll make is this is only possible because of community, right? So having met you here,
Absolutely.
that's the whole reason we're able to do this. So take care.
All right.
All right. Y'all
Thank
take
you.
care.
And
My
please
pleasure.
check out Global Groove as we continue this series on Blacks thriving around the world. All right.
Let's go. All
Peace.
right. Take care. Bye.
All right. It's early in the morning. Yes.